Imagine a city floating on water. No roads, no cars, only canals, bridges, and palaces rising from the sea. A place where every stone has witnessed centuries of glory, and now of decay. But beneath this breathtaking beauty hides a growing threat. Venice, once the shining jewel of the Adriatic, is slowly slipping beneath the waves. How was such an impossible city even built? What did it look like 100 years ago? And how long can it survive in a world that's changing faster than ever before? This is not just a story of the past, it's a warning from the future. Welcome to Satellite, where history meets mystery. Today, we uncover the incredible rise and fragile future of Venice. Building a city on land is hard enough, but building one on water? That sounds impossible. And yet, more than 1,500 years ago, a group of people fleeing war and invasion arrived here, not on solid ground, but on a marsh. They drove millions of wooden poles deep into the mud, not just to support homes, but to support history itself. These poles, mostly oak and larch, were submerged in salt water, where they didn't rot, they petrified. Over centuries, they became as hard as stone. On top of this wooden forest, Venice began to rise. Church by church, bridge by bridge, palace by palace. It wasn't built by kings, but by refugees, merchants, fishermen, and dreamers. And somehow, against all odds, the city stood. A miracle, not of marble, but of mud, salt, and human determination. 100 years ago, Venice felt like a quiet dream. The canals were calm, the streets were peaceful, filled not with tourists, but with locals living their everyday lives. Children played on stone bridges, laundry hung between the windows like flags, the sound of footsteps echoed through empty alleys. There were no cruise ships, no crowds, no smartphones, just gondoliers, shopkeepers, fishermen, and a city that breathed slowly. Venice wasn't a destination back then. It was home. People knew each other by name. A wedding at San Marco would bring the whole neighborhood out into the square. Today, that version of Venice is almost gone. But if you listen closely, you can still hear its heartbeat buried under the noise. Venice still looks like a painting. The canals shimmer. The domes of San Marco gleam in the sunlight, and every narrow alley feels like a secret waiting to be found. But look a little closer, and the cracks begin to show. The water levels are rising, the foundations are sinking, and the population is disappearing. In the 1950s, over 170,000 people called Venice home. Today, fewer than 50,000 remain. The city has become a stage. Beautiful, yes, but almost empty. A place not for living, but for being watched. Cruise ships tower over the skyline. Rents are sky high, and locals are pushed out one by one. Venice is still breathtaking, but now it's holding its breath, unsure how much longer it can stay afloat. In a city built on dreams, fantasy has become big business. Venice has become a playground for the ultra-wealthy. Celebrities, royalty, billionaires, all dreaming of the perfect wedding in a place where time stands still. George Clooney, Indian billionaires, fashion tycoons, they've all turned Venice into a fairy tale backdrop just for a weekend. Fireworks light up the sky, palaces are rented for millions, gondolas are covered in roses. But when the lights fade, Venice is still here, and it still needs saving. Venice knows it's sinking, but it refuses to give up. Over the past decades, engineers, scientists, and city leaders have raced against time. Their goal? Not to grow, but to survive. One of the most ambitious efforts is the MOSE project, a massive system of underwater gates designed to rise from the seafloor and block high tides. It cost billions. It faced delays, scandals, and technical failures. But in 2020, for the first time, the gates actually worked, saving Venice from a devastating flood. Still, MOSE is not a miracle. It buys time, but it doesn't stop the sea forever. That's why Venice is also rethinking tourism. Starting in 2025, day trippers must pay an entry fee, the first city in the world to do so. The goal isn't to close the city, but to protect it. Limit cruise ships, tax short-term rentals, and finally, give the city back to its people. Because saving Venice isn't just about buildings or water levels. It's about culture, about memory, about life itself. Venice is more than just a place. It's a memory carved in stone, floating on borrowed time. Every reflection in the water tells a story of resilience, of beauty, of a city refusing to drown. But stories can fade. Cities can vanish, unless we choose to remember them. That's why we tell them, to remind the world what's at stake. So, if this story moved you, subscribe to Satellite, because the world is full of places like Venice, and their time is running out.